the question is there any real chance the Seahawks are going to trade him? They said yesterday they're accepting phone calls, which is one thing to pay close attention to. Dan Graziano, what are we hearing?
Yeah, look, it's not nothing. Obviously, there's something going on here in terms of dissatisfaction with Russell Wilson. If there's a list of potential teams, that means he's at least imagining himself elsewhere besides Seattle. But at this point, it doesn't seem realistic for the Seahawks to trade him. I know talking to people there, that they have not proceeded down a path this offseason of, oh, what happens if we trade him? Who do we get at quarterback? That's not on their minds. The finances of it don't work at all. It'd be a $39 million dead salary cap hit if they did trade him. And look, I mean, it's a player that he wants to win. He's made it clear he wants things to be better around him in Seattle. So it's still salvageable. It's not a Deshaun Watson situation. I had a GM once tell me, I always answer my phone in case someone has a better idea than I do. So the fact that Seattle's picking up the phone doesn't necessarily mean they're desperate to unload their quarterback. I think it's more likely than not, far more likely than not, that he plays for the Seahawks this year.
I understand that, but it's one thing to be answering your phone. It's another thing to be willing to publicly say so. So, look, something is going on. I think that's what we take away from this, right, Lewis? Something is going on here. So when the agent goes on the record with Shefty and says, here are 4 teams Russell would be interested in a trade to, what does that say to you, Louis Riddick?
It says to me, look, that Russell right now obviously is not happy with the way he sees things going and how he views himself and how he, currently in his situation and how he potentially views himself at those other football teams. And he thinks that it would be, a better situation for him. And if you listen to the reports, and look, we haven't heard anything specifically from Russell on the record right now recently about this situation. It sounds like he views himself one way, and he feels as though his upside is going to be capped if he stays in the current situation and it doesn't improve in a way in which he likes, namely that the offense is really put in his hands and he's allowed to be the one that really decides how it goes. And it sounds like Seattle's not willing to do that, especially considering how late in the year last year, when the offense was in his hands, he wasn't able to really, quote unquote, carry the football team the way he had been doing early on in the football season. So I think they have 2 different views about it. In many conversations that I had with Pete Carroll in different forums, whether it be, production calls or on NFL Live when we were at the Combine, this is a guy who really does believe in a run-first mantra, heavy play-action-pass type mantra. He believes in balance. He doesn't believe, I don't believe, fundamentally, in just putting it all on the quarterback. And I think Russ is at a point where he feels as though I deserve to have it on me. I deserve to get that kind of, that kind of respect. And I don't believe I'm going to get it here, and I think these other places would give that to me. So I think that's something that he's putting out there. He's using roundabout ways of doing it and having other people speak for him. But I think that's legit, and we'll see what happens ultimately, whether or not he changes teams.
Let's go back to the other part of this, Mike T. Again, having been a general manager yourself in 2 different places, the whole we're answering phone calls when they ring part of this I do find fascinating, because Kansas City isn't answering the phone if people are calling about Patrick Mahomes, right? So there's some distinction to be had here. What do you see going on right now? What do you imagine is going on behind the scenes?
Yeah, context is everything, which is John Schneider and Pete Carroll have to answer the phone because Russell Wilson's 32 years old. At the same time, what you need to be doing, Greeny, is you have to sit down with Russell Wilson and his agent and say, what is wrong and how can we fix it? We need to stand shoulder to shoulder and move forward. And I think fundamentally, this is a resource allocation discussion. Remarkably, right now, Seattle has 3 veteran players on offense. That's really remarkable. And they just gave up 2 first-round picks for Jamal Adams, another defensive player. Russell Wilson is seeing all these points score. Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes. He wants to do the same thing. So what's really important is you do have to look out for the long-term interest of your franchise if there's a deal that you just can't turn down. But more importantly, you have to work at solving problems, get out of your comfort zone and say, hey, we got to fix this together. What do we need to do to move forward?
The question is, do they have the beginning of an impasse that they cannot solve? That, to your point, Graziano, and I'll give you the final word here, it isn't the Deshaun Watson situation yet, but does it feel like it could turn into that eventually? And if so, are they better off getting ahead of it rather than letting it hit them?
Well, again, better off is a relative term. If they were to make the move this offseason. It would set them back significantly in terms of their salary cap and their finances. So you'd effectively be white flagging a season. And I know from having talked to Pete Carroll in the past, that is not something he believes in doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth pointing out that we did not think Jared Goff's contract was tradable. We didn't think they could move on from him, and they did. Teams can figure out ways to do things if they want to. Let's keep a close eye on it. I know it's different. We'll come back to it. I didn't mean to make it the same. I'm just saying
bigger.
Unlikely things seem to happen in the NFL lately all the time. Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.